All right, hello everybody. This is Vlad Katz. I'm joined here by the one and only Jim Black from Central Massachusetts. Now, here's the reason we're having this conversation with Jim. So Jim and I have been in the same brokerage platform now for about 6 months or so. And one of the things I truly appreciate about Jim Black is, just the high-mindedness that he has. So we were literally like, right, Jim, like over the weekend, we were just catching up on totally unrelated subject that we're going to discuss today. And one thing led to another. And we're talking about team member goals and helping our team members get to the next level of their freedom goals, next level of their income goals, etc. Now, everybody, a few things about Jim Black. Look, he's one of the highest achievers in the real estate space, period. You can learn so much about him by visiting jimblacksellshomes.com. You can learn about him on Facebook. Trust me, he's a really cool guy. I hear he's a decent husband as well. So it's really great and a good father. And this is going to be a how-to conversation on how to lead your team members, your real estate team members into 2021. Because here's what happens right now. It's November month. So Jim, would you say that most mega agents right now are creating their own goals, right?
Absolutely. No, this is the time of the year to make sure we're prepped for 2021.
2021, right? I can't believe it's like a few months away, 2 months away. So and then, mega agents go on these retreats, even sometimes with team members, and they're like, all right, we're going to help 400 buyers and sellers next year to achieve their real estate goals. And it's kind of like becomes this like motto for the entire team. By the way, there's nothing wrong with it. But one of the things that in my experience, mega agents miss is the conversation about their team members' goals. And it's not just like, hey, Jim, how much money do you want to make next year? Okay, good job. Okay, I'm going to help you get there. But it's a little bit more than that. It's actually a lot more than that. So like when we were having that conversation about other sources of income, it was like, okay, how can we help our team members reach theirs? And then you said, look, you review motivation, you review like details, and you actually set up structures for them to hit their goals. So I kind of want to just ask you some questions, and then in hopes that other mega agents who are watching can take some notes and implement it in their strategies going into 2021 of how to not only achieve theirs, but help their team members achieve that. Does that work for you?
That works for me. It sounds perfect.
All right. So you're on pace for about 300 units. It's yourself and only 5 other team members, which is ridiculous, which is really good.
We'll do 230, 240 this year, but you're right. 300, right around 300 probably next year.
Okay, good. So then okay, so what is your conversation like with your team members around their goals? What questions do you ask? What questions do you not ask? Like, how does it go?
So you actually touched on something that made me chuckle earlier, because I remember the year that I said, we're going to do 300 transactions, and it had nothing to do with anybody's goals. And it really didn't tie to any of mine either. I just threw this number out there. So since then, it's been several years since then, what I did this year is I sat down with each team member, each agent, and we talked about what it is that they want. I didn't say, hey, these are our goals. Hey, this is what you need to do. So what do you want? And where do you want to make it? And I try to make sure it's a safe environment where they can, if they tell me, I don't want to sell houses anymore, or, in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, I want to be doing something totally different. Okay, let me help you get there. So we actually break down. I'll ask, like, what do you want to make? And many times the agents will ask me, well, is this just real estate? I said, no. What is it that you're looking to achieve? And if you're looking to make 200 grand a year or 300 grand a year, whatever it is, how much is coming from real estate? And I have team members that, want to have a coaching business. I have team members that want to own rental property. I have team members that want to flip properties. So we talk about those specific goals and how do we achieve those? And that way I can actually use all of that information to actually decide on how do we grow as a team to make sure that all these people can meet their goals without ever having to leave our team.
Wow. So then you're really diving in, not just their real estate income, but their kind of like the holistic approach to their income. And then how do you create an environment? So somebody listening or watching may be asking, okay, so my agents don't want to tell me how much money they want to make, or they don't want to tell me why it's important to them. How do you bust through that?
Well, I think the first thing is don't get shocked when they tell you they want to make more than you do, or they give you a number, or when you sit down with a team member and they say, I want to build a team. And, I said, that's awesome, because you know what, that just tells me I have to create an environment that's big enough for them to be able to do that. And, and I asked them questions like, around numbers, like if you made X amount of money, maybe it's $200,000 and you had that leverage that you're talking about, does it need to be your name on the sign? Or is that, if I create that environment and help you create that environment, is that going to be acceptable to you? And, I think it's built up on a daily basis of building rapport and being somewhat in the trenches. For me, I tried to get in and out of production. And I know for me right now, my office is right next to all the agents, and I'm in here every day, 6 days a week. And I'm selling houses. I'm, coaching the agents. I'm really in the trenches, so I can actually build that trust. Because I think if I'm just this guy that sits at a desk somewhere and just collects checks, I don't think that relationship or that trust gets built.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, Jim, because when David Hill introduced us earlier in the year, one of the really, I don't want to the word would be either infectious or contagious things about you, Jim, is just how selfless you are. Even in the conversations that we had when you were transitioning over about the team members, right? It's how can I make their lives easier? How can I make their lives better? How much more money will they be making? Right. And it was oh man, this guy really cares. And, and I've talked to a number of your team members, right, from Rich to Olivia, and it's clear that they follow you. So, and this may be slightly outside of the topic, but what I want to know is how did you build that level of leadership with your team members? How long did it take? What did you do?
That's an awesome question. I think it's a lot of failure, because I will tell you, and being open. So I'm going to share that little story with you. So when I told you I was going to sell 300 houses, and our team really, if you added our goals up, it was 150 maybe. And Olivia sat me down and she had a hard talk with me and said, this isn't going to work. You can't do this. This is your goal. This isn't anybody else's goal. And there's a disconnect, and there's, kind of a little uproar on our team here. And so her doing that, so I don't know if it was something I did. I actually think it was something she did. And that we sat there and I said, you know what? I shut up for a little bit. I didn't say anything. And then I just said, you know what? You're right. And now what do we do? And I know for me, what I've started to get better at, which I'm not very good at, is letting up control and trusting that somebody else is going to do it better than me. And, you mentioned a couple of team members, and what Olivia does, she does better than me. I'm not the right person for it. We joked this morning where somebody asked me a technology question, and I asked the rest of the team members that are around, I said, do you guys ever ask me tech questions? They said, absolutely not. Because I know you're going to give me an answer and it's not going to be the right one. And then, Rich is a good example too. You guys will, if anybody's in our Tribe network, they're watching the competitions, and Rich is beating me. It took me a while to be okay with not being the winner, because I think that once you realize that if you can help someone grow to be bigger and better than you, you actually are winning. And that doesn't happen overnight. And I still struggle with it from time to time, because I'm human, and again, I'm competitive. And I have to, in my head, remind myself that, him winning is me winning.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that story. Again, I know it was kind of outside of our topic, but like it gives, at very least, it gives me kind of an opportunity to see like what's behind like this level of success. So let's get back then on the highway of this conversation with the team members. So you have, you're talking to someone, let's say it's Johnny, and Johnny says, I want to make 100 grand in 2021. Like,
Okay.
what do you say?
So, well, first of all, I mean, why 100 grand? Like, what are you planning on doing with that money?
Jim, I've not thought about it, but I've always wanted just to make 100 grand. I've kind of been making 50, 60, sometimes like, in the high 60s, but I just never had 100 grand. I just wonder what it would do to me and my family.
And you know what, Vlad, I've had a similar experience. I made 50 grand year over year after year after year after year. And I was able to break through that for similar reasons. I will tell you that when you get to a certain point, you're gonna stop growing if you don't have a reason behind it. Like, have you put a budget together to figure out what you actually need to live off of?
No, not at all.
Okay.
My wife keeps harassing me about that, but man, I just.
Okay. I guess sometime this Saturday, if you want to sit down, we can put a budget together.
Oh, wow.
So you know what you're doing with that. And let's just, while we're sitting here, just so we're not, so we can dive into it a little, let's say you need to make 50 grand. I mean, would you say that's probably a fair assumption?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you going to do with the other 50?
Well, and we always talk about investment properties, right, in real estate. And I've helped so many investors get these, good deals that, it'd be really cool if I could make some money on those and, create a better future for my kids, et cetera.
Okay. So you want a better future for your kids with these investment properties. I mean, how many investment properties were you thinking about purchasing?
I'd start with one, Jim.
Okay. And what's the end game with that? Like, what are you looking to achieve in the end with owning those rental properties?
Dude, I'd love to get to the point where I don't have to work, but it's kind of like I'll always be doing something. I just don't want to, like, I want to be able to say no to, going. I want to be able to say no to go into, showing a buyer a house because I'm missing my daughter's soccer practice. Like I want to have that level of freedom and choice. So like, I got to be making money every month in order to pay that 50.
Okay. So if you were to buy a multifamily this year, I mean, is 50,000 going to be enough?
Bro, before this conversation, I wasn't even thinking about this. I just wanted to make 100. So now I'm like, even my head is spinning. My mind is spinning with like how and what. So like just these questions were pretty cool.
So, I mean, have you just to dive into some other things too here? I mean, have you thought about what else you need to save for? I mean, what are you doing saving for retirement? I know you get 2 little kids, college education. Have you guys started saving for that as well?
No, we've been making just enough to pay for all the bills and have a little bit, a little bit of savings here and there, like a few $1,000, but nothing major. Retirement, investment properties. This is like the longest conversation I've had about this.
Okay. So how much would you say that you're going to need this year if you were to buy that first investment property for down payment?
Well, I see down payments with like 20% for investment properties based on what I'm seeing. So, that's $150,000 property and about what, $40,000.
Okay, so 40 for that. How much do you want to be saving this year for your retirement?
Dude, as much as possible. So I'm gonna maybe 10.
Okay. And have you mentioned you hadn't started saving yet for the kids' education. Is that something you want to start this year as well?
My wife has been on me for that. Yeah.
Okay.
They're little, but they'll be, college age in no time.
Oh, and that stuff's not cheap either.
No,
How much would you want to save this year for that?
a few grand a year, I think will help for
Okay,
you.
so like $5,000 or so.
Yeah, so 2,500 for each would be great.
Okay, I mean, what other personal financial goals do you have this year?
Well, look, I anticipate COVID to still be around, so it's, we're not going to do much traveling, but normally I would say, a couple of vacations with the kids for like a week at the beach.
Okay, what do those run you?
I mean, last time we went was like 2019, and it was, I don't know, like a couple of grand for the week.
Okay, so probably like another $5,000 there. What about? I know you've been talking about, going and saving up for that. Eventually, actually have a beach home as well. Is that still important to you?
It is just not as important as investment properties and everything else we discussed. If if I'm ever making, 150 or 200, we can have that conversation.
Okay, so is 100 really what you're looking to make, or because we're already at 120 before we even get to
Oh, wow.
before we get to this. So is that something that you want that's interesting to you? I mean, going and saving more.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's all right. Littering and stuff. It would. So actually, I'm going to pause right there because I want to unpack it for just a minute, and then I want to see how you end it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Because I think that you just gave the viewers and listeners like a lot of really great questions to ask. One of the things, or a couple of things jump out at me. One is like how your being is all about me or the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, tell me more about like you're digging deeper into what's important to me. Okay, so that's huge. Okay. And then you are putting out other options that I may not even be thinking about.
Yep.
And you're connecting the options to the motivation.
It's basically pulling out, I believe, having that obligation to pull out everything they probably should be doing, and then get them to start thinking about it and make their own goals around it, and then go ahead and pull in the experts on those areas. Once we've identified what it is they want.
Got it. Okay, so it perfectly makes sense. So then how do you end it? How do you like close it to the next step? And by the way, would you actually sit down with one of your team members and help them create a budget?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I actually did that with a client this past Saturday too. That's got 13 credit cards, and we put everything on the table, and we came up with a plan how to get them out of debt.
Wow. So, all right, I'm clear. And all right, so how would you end it to the next step, whatever the next step is in your?
So we want to go. So we're going over money here, and really these are your goals for this year. What else are you, what else are you hoping to achieve? Like, what else is important to you this year? Are the hours that you work important? Are taking certain days off, spending time with the family? Like, what else do you want to have in your goals for this year?
Yeah, if I can have one like weekend day off, that would be amazing. Like just maybe a Sunday to spend time with the kiddos and the wife. Like
Okay.
that would be great. And yeah, Sundays ideally, and I can start with a half.
Okay. And how many hours do you want to work per week?
I mean, I can push 60.
Okay. So 60 hours, one day off a week, typically Sunday. How about, you talked about a couple of big vacations. 60 hours a week is a lot. So, I think most of us need breaks here and there. How about any other like little getaways in between?
My wife works a lot. I'm a workaholic, so
Okay. So not super important to have that in there. And is there, just to tie back a little bit into the financial, I know we kind of dove off of that. Is there anybody in your life that you feel you want to help financially, or any causes that you feel like you want to help financially this year?
I'd like to help my congregation as much as
Yep.
I can. And they never know when a family member may need some.
Okay. And how would you like to help them?
Usually it's with a check.
Okay.
That's the need.
Okay. What would that check look like for next year?
Dude, if I can write an extra $1,000 check or $2,000 check, that would be a big deal.
Okay. 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 So I mean, so we're getting pretty close when we add all this numbers up to about 150,000 in net income for you to really reach the goals that you said you're committed to here. Is that the number?
I mean, I guess so. I'm scared now because
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, based on where we were before, what that's going to look like for you. Let's break down, how many houses you're going to need to sell to reach the goal that you said that you have there. And it's probably not going to be as scary as you think.
got it. All right, so I'm going to call a timeout, Jim. So then you take so what you've actually just done here for us is you inspected their goals.
Mhm.
And it was clear that my goal of 100 grand was not sufficient for what I actually want to accomplish. Okay.
And it wasn't, and it was too much for what you thought you needed it for initially.
Right. And it was too much.
50 was really your goal when we started.
Got it. Just to totally makes sense. So then you tie it to motivation. You're kind of poking around for motivation. You're getting it from me. It's also clear that I haven't thought much about it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Most people haven't.
Right. Oh, yes, absolutely. And then you also create more options from which to pick from. Like I often see just like in the real estate industry is people are kind of like, hey, what's your goal? Okay. And then there's just the number comes out and what do you need it for? There's just like two main kind of buckets. And then there's no options kind of created. And most people don't have goals. Most people are not walking around with like goals in their heads.
Mhm.
So then it's kind of like it's just empty numbers. Okay, so that's just my diatribe. So then you're gonna create a plan for them. So you'll take my 150 based on average sales price, based on splits. You'll create the number of units I'll need. And it'll probably be like 2 a month or something like that, or like 2.5 a month, right? With your average sales price, and then that becomes my goal, my activity.
Your committed goal, and those are words I use too. Is I mean, I want to make sure that like the goal you give me is a committed goal. This is we're budgeting on it goal. So this isn't the pie in the sky. This is like what we're intending to do.
And then how often do you? So it's November. We created this goal. How often do you follow up with me regarding that goal?
Well, we're going through, I mean, on a weekly basis, we're touching base on our goals in a team meeting. And on a bi-weekly basis, we're sitting down and chatting through all of this as well. So it's if you're getting behind, we're going to have to come up with a plan. Or I think it's more of diving into the challenges, like, whether it's an action challenge or a conversion challenge. And obviously the conversion challenge is easier to coach than the action challenge.
Amen to that. Okay, good. So I think that I totally got the picture. I hope that the viewers and listeners get the picture of what it looks like to create a committed goal with your sales team member. So you can then not only hold them accountable, but hold them able to reaching those goals and fulfilling the motivation that they have. Now, I kind of think about like, okay, who's going to be viewing / listening to this? So it's going to be mega agents. So if you're a mega agent with a team, this is a really great model on how to lead your team members. By the way, like when you create the environment in which your people can reach their goals, they're not going to leave you unless they don't associate their success with your environment. So it becomes about their goals. Then somebody may be watching this who is a mega agent in training, somebody who is a solo agent who wants to have a team. But this would be a great thing to save and watch when you do have a team, when you hire that first executive assistant, when you hire the first sales team member. If you are a solo agent and you don't want to have a team, don't watch this video, but it may be a little bit too late since we're coming to the end of it. And then if you're a potential buyer and seller in Central Mass or actually in anywhere in Massachusetts or outside, like this is the reason why so many buyers and sellers choose to work with Jim Black team, because of how he treats his team members. I have no doubt that they end up treating the clients in such a magical way as well. So Jim, any parting thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, the parting thought wasn't my genius idea, and coaching is important because my coach pushed me to start doing this year. And it was kind of a profound thing because I realized that sometimes we do this, but we don't do it consistently.
Amen. Doing it. And that's why I asked you is like, okay, so it's November, you have the goals. It's a really great conversation. You even set up a budget, but if there's no follow-up, a week, two, or every week or two, then those goals just become dreams. They're in the desk drawer somewhere, and it's a distant memory. So thanks for taking on the success of your team members, like personally, and also thank you for paying it forward to all the viewers and listeners, brother. I appreciate it. I am honored to be in business with you. Thanks for setting a bar really high for level of leadership.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Vlad.
All right, brother.